afternoon, Central Florida. Welcome to Happenings in History with my friend Kelly.
Hello, everybody out there in Q-Land. We're so glad you're with us on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Not too hot, not too
nice
cold. It's very nice. And we're just glad to be here. We have an exciting show for you today, but we have some special guests today. Of course, you heard Bob Grenier, our all-the-time guest. Bob,
I just
Bob's
won't go
here.
away, huh?
Bob's here most of the time, and I love having you here, Bob. And most of you know he is a city councilman.
I am now the vice mayor of Tavares.
Oh, vice mayor
Yeah.
of Tavares. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and we have special guests today, Dave McAllister, and he is going to be talking about restoring a monument in Arlington.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Dave, I'm really excited to hear about this monument. But first, how about if you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I'm a native Floridian. I was actually born in Miami, but my father's family has been in Florida since 1821 when the United States took the territory over from Spain. So we go way back. And then I went to Emory to college, but I went to law school at Stetson down there in St. Pete and Gulfport. And now I practice law in Tampa area, Dade City specifically.
Oh, great. Wonderful. How did you get involved with this statue? Tell us about this statue, what's going on.
Well, it's part of ongoing interest in Southern history in general, and I'm a commander of a Sons of Confederate Veterans camp down there in Tampa, Judah P. Benjamin camp. And the Reconciliation Memorial kind of got caught up in the Elizabeth Warren naming commission business, if you remember that, where all the base names were being changed. And on their third report, they threw in that they wanted to move this memorial out of Arlington Cemetery, which seemed kind of strange. The memorial was originally the brainchild of President McKinley in the aftermath of the Spanish-American War. He championed a special section for Confederate graves to show the reconciliation between the North and the South at that time. And the layout of the plot was in a circular pattern and left a spot in the middle for a big memorial monument. And with the support of the following presidents, Roosevelt and Taft and Wilson, the memorial was sculptured and erected in Arlington and dedicated by Wilson in 1914, and it stood there until December 2023, when a massive crane came into Arlington between Hanukkah and Christmas and just pulled it right out of the ground. And
Pulled the whole monument right out of the ground?
Yes, and well, they divided it into bits. They carved it up, and now it's in a storage in Virginia.
And when was this again?
In 2023.
2023.
Right at Christmas and Hanukkah time, because the enabling legislature was going to run out in 2024.
Oh, okay. I don't understand why they would want to remove it.
Well, neither do we. We think it's Elizabeth Warren just being a bitter, resentful Yankee somehow. And
She's the one who kind of spearheaded this
she certainly
movement.
did. Yes, well, she sponsored the amendment to the appropriations bill to which this was attached. President Trump vetoed it at first, but because you have to pay the military, the veto got overrode, and this was put in as an afterthought.
Describe the monument itself. I mean, it's a big monument. It's huge. It was meant for reconciliation. McKinley was the one who had it commissioned to put in there.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's very beautiful. I don't know
McKinley was
what's disturbing about it. I'll hold that up for those of you on Facebook Live. If you're on Facebook Live, you can see me holding up the picture.
McKinley was the last president that was an actual officer in the Union Army during the war. And because of the Spanish-American War and the support of the Southerners, and even there were officers of the U.S. Army that had been officers in the Confederate Army that were in the Spanish-American War. So he really felt for reconciliation and thought something ought to be done for the casualties. So the men that are actually buried there came from prisoner of war camps and hospitals around Washington, where they actually had died and were buried, and they were reinterred at Arlington. There's about 400 of them, plus some wives and widows involved as well. And the sculpture, it's a 30-foot high bronze sculpture with, I think it's about 24 or 30 life-size bronze figures around it. And up at the top is a figure of the South, as featured as a woman, and then she's holding a plowshare. And it's a reference to the biblical verse that they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their swords into pruning hooks, so that it has a biblical and religious feel to it.
I see. Okay.
Describe some of the other reliefs and inscriptions around the statue.
There are escutcheons or shields of all the southern states that are representative, and then there's a large frieze with a number of vignettes of soldiers marching off to war and saying goodbye to their wives and children. There's one particular little vignette where a soldier is handing a baby over to a woman that has African-American features. And it's thought that that's what upset Elizabeth Warren to some extent. Why would this African-American woman be on this monument? Well, it's thought that Sir Moses Ezekiel, that was the sculptor, was doing this from memory because he had African-American servants in his household there, in his parents' household in Richmond. He originally he was the first Jewish cadet at Virginia Military Institute and was involved in the famous Battle of Newmarket, and this is commemorated in the movie, the Field of Lost Shoes, if anybody's
I've heard of that. Yes,
movie.
I did.
Yes.
I've seen it.
When the war was over, he went back to school, and he was going to go to medical school and was studying anatomy, and he met Robert E. Lee, and Robert E. Lee said, "You are so good at drawing anatomy, you really ought to be an artist and not a doctor." I'm sure his family was real happy, a Jewish family. Surely they wanted a doctor in the family, but no, he became an artist. He went to studied in Berlin and won a lot of prizes, and he eventually settled his studio in Rome and became very famous in Europe for his sculpture, very classical sculpture. Everything he did, he had actually seen. He didn't use his imagination. He drew from life. And that's why we think that these soldiers were real people, and everybody that's on the frieze, whether it's one of the women or one of the soldiers or somebody that he had actually met. And although he died in Rome, during World War I, he got a special dispensation to be buried at that monument in Arlington.
Oh, so he is in Arlington.
He himself is in Arlington by special dispensation. And we think, and his family believes, this is actually his grave marker. And grave markers were supposed to be excluded from this removal by the naming commission of all the names. And so it's especially not legal to have done that.
Why has it gotten the nickname Reconciliation Monument?
Because McKinley specifically noted that at the time of the Spanish-American War, the northern soldiers and the southern soldiers were getting together in the units, and as I said, some of them were led by former Confederate generals. And because of this joining back and going forward of the whole country, we call it the Reconciliation Monument. Its technical name original name was the New South.
The New South.
The New South.
The New
Okay.
South.
Now, everybody, there might be people who don't know. I'm surprised if there anybody is, and we'll talk about it after the break,
Okay.
that Arlington National Cemetery used to be the property of Robert E. Lee.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, it did. And everything. So tell us what happened. So they took it down in 23, and what has happened since then, Dave?
Well, first of all, there was a big lawsuit about it, but that's been put to bed now. But because of the election of President Trump, and his wanting to restore various monuments, including Albert Pike there in Washington and others, This is part of that effort. And Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War now, has ordered that the monument be replaced, and there was an agreement with Virginia. The Department of Defense at that point had made an agreement with Virginia to take the monument. So Governor Youngkin was involved, and he was participated and say, yes, I'll loan it for display, but only for 50 years. So we're working right now to try to modify that so that it will perpetually be at Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh my goodness, only 50 years.
That'll go by quickly, believe me.
I know.
I know. And so where is the monument, like, being shipped back now, or is it still in storage?
It's still in storage. I believe that they're taking bids on the engineers and artists to replace it. When it was taken down, they sheared a number of bolts and kind of messed it up some, so it needs to be refurbished some, but it won't take, or it should not take, the 3 years that they were claiming that it was going to be and the millions of dollars that it was going to take.
Right.
No, it's going to be quicker and less expensive than the opponents had proposed.
Are all the parts going to be put back together?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's actually structured a little bit like the Statue of Liberty, where it's panels of bronze held by an armature in the center.
Okay.
30 foot high, lots of life-size figures around it. And as I said, the coats of arms, the shields, and the big figure on top holding the plowshare. Of cancel culture in general and taking grave markers out of cemeteries is just a means of dividing the American public, kind of like what Mao's Red Guard did in China and the Nazis did in Poland. You have to control the future, you have to control the past. And by wiping out the public's memory of anything that went on, they'll be able to control them in the future.
Yes, I can say that it is much more divided today than when I grew up in the South in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. We used to get together. I mean,
That's correct.
I know there was bad times in the past, and there's been things that maybe should have been better, but we have to do better than this.
Oh, absolutely.
We have to stop being so divided, and we have to reach out to each other as Americans and appreciate our country.
Absolutely. And same with the fighting and trying to get the General Edmund Kirby Smith statue into the Lake County Historical Museum. Basically, I was really kind of surprised the opposition. I thought it was a great opportunity to bring this thing into a museum, to educate, to tell a story that what HK and Dave here are trying to bring out to the people, and why they're trying to preserve historical monuments from being taken away from people, to making sure the kids have a proper education in the history of the North and South. You know, 250 years ago, we'll celebrate next year, is the founding of our country. But still today, that 4 years there between 1861 and 1865, those 4 years, were so critical to our country. And I think we're missing the educational point of those 4 years. And these are the gentlemen right here that are bringing it back to us, trying to make people understand their ignorance, trying to make them overcome their ignorance to what happened in those 4 years.
You know, Bob, Florida is both one of the youngest states, but it's also one of the oldest states.
That's true.
Since Ponce de Leon, it's been more than 500 years that we have history in the state of Florida, and that's worthwhile knowing. We have our own problems with our own cemeteries that we're trying to take care of in Tallahassee, but Washington, Arlington is a national cemetery. It is the flagship. And anybody that wants to help in that effort, there is a website. There's defendarlington.org to find out information and participate. Defendarlington spelled out .org.
Defendarlington.org.